Hey, what's up, guys? It's here, the Black House, bringing you another general discussion about Finn. Now, we're going to be talking about what type of character is Finn, what can he do, what are his abilities, and what compositions are great for Finn. Now, also in the end, I'll be talking about my personal advice and my personal experience as a role player. Now, what type of character is Finn? Well, Finn, he's actually a CC control protecting AoE roam character. Yeah, he has a lot of CC in his kit. He's very much of a protector, and basically all his ability are AoE. Now, what is his perk? The unstoppable perk. That's how it's called. Well, what happens is that Finn has the ability that he cannot be stopped or stunned, and any impairing movement effects are reduced to mild slows, but stuns are converted to silences. But the best part of all this is that he even can shrug off attempts to his life by gaining a 50% of additional armor, shield, and max health from items and effects. So what about his abilities? He has the Quibble, he has Polite Company, and last and the most hated ultimate that makes a lot of difference when it comes to team fights and engaging and disengaging, the Force Accord. So let's talk about these three abilities that Finn has in his kit. The Quibble. What is the Quibble? Well, the Quibble, what happens is that Finn slams his anchor down to a designated place. And when he slams, any enemy that's caught under his slam is slow for a 0.9 second. But if you overdrive the Quibble, the slow turns into a stun. And that's very good. And specifically really good for, like, for example, I'm just going to give you like a scenario here. If your team right now, you're engaging, right? You started a team fight, and suddenly the enemy team actually is just like about to die. And you know what happens? They're gonna probably want to escape. What happens with your Quibble? You can actually lock down the enemy. You could slow them, or if it's overdrive, you could stun them down. What happens is that you're just giving the opportunity, opening a window for your allies to come in and swipe the team with an ace. Now that's very good, but also you could use your Quibble to lock down targets, permitting and opening a good window for your snipers to use their ultimates against the enemy that's been locked down, or to lock down some pesky targets that are just hard to kill and that need to be stunned and slowed. Also, if your allies are trying to run away from a dangerous situation, but you know that the enemy is going to actually follow them to just wipe them down, what you could do is actually use the Quibble in favor of your allies to actually stun or hold down the enemy, giving an open window to actually escape and help your allies be in a safe spot. Now, what's with the Polite Company? The Polite Company actually is what happens that Finn stomps on the ground. And when he stomps on the ground, what happens is that he does crystal damage to all enemies in the wide area of damage. But also, he pulls and drags the enemies towards him, which is very good if you have very slow allies. For example, let's use as a reference as Cruel, Saw, and Rain. You know that these three characters are very slow, and when it comes to catching up to their target, it's really hard for them. So they're very dependent on stickiness, like sticky items or characters that could actually help them to stick to their targets. So what happens is that with your company, like your Polite Company, if you see that the enemy is trying to get away from your crew, your Rain, you just stomp, you drag the enemy more closer to your allies, and it opens the window for your allies to actually wipe the enemy out. Not only that, this is a better and a great addition to this ability. And what I love about this ability that actually it grants a fortified health. And this fortified health lasts for 3 to 4 seconds. And 3 to 4 seconds of fortified health is a lot and really could change the the tide around. It could really make a a game changing move. And why do I say that? Because okay, for example, if your allies first, and let's use again the reference of Cruel, Ray, and of Song, that they're very slow to escape. You know that these characters, as they are slow, it's more better of an option to actually stick to the fight and not back down than escaping, because if they try to escape, it's just kind of pointless. They can't very actually move that quick, so it's actually better for them to actually stick to the fight. So what happens is that if you know and you see that your allies are actually kind of getting melted down, you just use your fortified health. And not only that, there's another better part to this fortified health. The fortified health scales on for 6% for bonus health, and bonus health will be considered as, for example, if you're building a lot of utility items, like for example, a crucible, a shiver steel, anything that just give you an extra health bonus, 6% of all that will be transferred to the fortified health. But not only that, if you build armor and shield, 20% of all that armor and shield will be transferred to the fortified health. So it even makes that fortified health even more stronger. And I'm saying 3 to 4 seconds, if overdrive, 4 seconds when overdrive, it's actually, you're giving your team actually like a 3 to 4 seconds of God mode. It's going to be really hard or almost impossible for the enemy to wipe out your team under the effects of a polite company if you're built on a lot of utility items or defense items. Now, what's with the Force Accord, the ultimate, that a lot of people hate, and I personally tell you, there's never been a moment that I don't get pissed or mad or aggravated when I'm just trying to escape with my little life from a bad team fight, and then I'm just dragged back into the fight, into the danger zone. And not, if I'm not dragged back into the danger zone, I'm killed. Why? Because what happens is that Phinn throws his anchor to a designated area, and we're gonna yank back. When he yanks back his anchor, he deals damage to any enemy in the path of that anchor. But not only that, he pulls any enemy in the path of his anchor back to his position. And this is a very, very strong, game-changing ultimate as a roam player. Why? Because with this ultimate, what happens is that it actually gives you the opportunity to rearrange the position of the enemy. If they're escaping, right? What happens is that you just pull them back into the spot where you're at, giving a chance for your allies to come down and just wipe out the enemies, securing and locking down an ace. What's even best is that if your allies, and this is another example, if your allies are having a bad fight and it's time to bust out, let's run, escape for your life, because you don't want the enemies to actually, no, you don't want to give them an ace. So what happens is that when your allies are running away, common sense is that the enemy is going to try to lock down to your allies and try to chase after them so they cannot escape and get the ace. So what happens if your allies is just running away and you see the enemy just going after them, you could use the Force Accord to actually pull the enemy back towards you, giving an opportunity and an open window for your ally to run away to safety. So actually this is a very, very strong ability, but not only that, there are even more ways how to use it. For example, if you're playing around a Celeste casual, use any character that are snipers. You could rearrange the enemies to a spot or to a position where your allies that are snipers, if you have anyone playing with you as a sniper, could actually land their skill shots more easily. And this go also well with the quibble. Like if you pull them back towards you and you quickly activate your quibble and stun the enemy or slow them down, either way, it actually helps a lot for your snipers to do their ultimates or their skill shots on the enemy. Probably even opening a window to actually wipe out the enemy and to actually secure an ace. So his ability, the Force of Core, that's why I say it's one of the most hated abilities of all that what he has, because it really can mess things up. Now if you don't use it carefully, you might put your team in a bad spot. I seen, and I also mistakenly I have done that my team are not in the right position to fight. So what happens that sometimes you see people, or I, like I said, I have done that. I pull the enemy even though towards us. And that's a bad move, because if your allies are not prepared to fight, you don't have your utilities up from the cooldown. Your allies are very low on health. You don't want to pull, drag the enemies to your location, because it just spells wrong. That's it. It spells ace. That's it. It's very dangerous. So you want to use it very carefully. You want to use it in the right moment. But also, just in case, if you ever miss your forecourt, like you actually don't manage to pull nobody towards you, don't worry. If you have that skill at level 2, you'll get a 50% of cooldown reduction. I mean, not reduction. I mean, you'll get a 50% of cooldown refund. And if you have it overdrive, you'll get a 30% of cooldown refunded. So that means that if you miss, you most likely be able to use it quick again. So now, what compositions are very good and works very well with Phinn? Well, for example, if you're playing with Adagio is a very good pair up with Phinn, because if Adagio is, for example, he's channeling down his ultimate, and you know that any enemy inside his ultimate is gonna actually run away while Adagio is channeling, and what happens is that you have to actually activate your polite company to just keep the enemies inside the channeling ultimate until Adagio actually completes it, and the enemies is, if they're not wiped out, they're stunned or in a critical state. Also, you could use your quibble to lock down the enemies if they're bunched up in a little space, like in the same spot. You could actually stun them with your quibble, giving a chance for Adagio to complete his channeling ultimate and actually stun the enemy once again with his ultimate and eliminate the enemy, or put them in a critical state where you can actually finish them off with a quibble or a force of cord. Now with Raymond, Cruel, and Saw, these three have kind of the same thing, and that's why I'm gonna just talk about like all three of them, like if there was just one, because Cruel, Rain, and Saw, what they have in common, the common factor is that they're very slow. They're just super slow characters, but they're very strong. Their slowness is actually recompensed with a lot of strength. So what happens is that they're very dependent on items. Like I said before, they're very dependent on being sticky. And things that make them most sticky, like Shiver Steel, also is the polite company. That polite company is going to make a lot of difference, and it's going to help a lot Cruel, Saw, and Rain to stick to their targets. Not only that, if the enemy has actually managed to run away, you can actually just pull them towards you with your force of cord. And if you just want to lock them down and you just want to chain stun, remember, Cruel has his throwing, he does his sword toss, and his sword toss actually stuns. And Rain, if he channeled, he actually managed to put down his ultimate on top of the enemy, he could actually stun the enemies. And on top of that, you just could use your quibble to just chain stun, and then follow up with a polite company to just add that 45 health and do a little bit of critical damage to the enemies, which is a good idea. So with these three characters, that's why Phinn is very good for them, because it just helps them stick to them. But also, if Cruel Saw or Ram is trying to run away, if they're trying, because most likely that they might stick and not back down. But if they're in need to run away, you could, like I said, you could use your force cord to pull the enemy away from them, so your allies can actually run away to safety. Now with glaive, you could actually chain stun. For example, glaive, if your glaive, like if the person that you're playing with is very good with glaive, common sense is that that glaive is gonna afterburn and try to stun the enemy, but throwing it towards your location, so then you could follow up with another, and then after that following up with a polite company, finishing off the enemy or the target or multiple enemies. So that's why glaive is also kind of works well with Phinn. Also, that goes well with, like, for example, a Catherine or Arden, for example, because there have been composition I've seen a couple times, Arden and Phinn playing together, and it's actually very good, because when Arden drops down the gauntlet, what happens is that Phinn has the opportunity to actually throw his anchor, like do his force of cord, and actually pull the enemies that are inside the gauntlet towards outside of the gauntlet. And what happens is that, okay, you kind of might be thinking about why, if Arden's putting down the gauntlet, you want to like drag the enemies out of the gauntlet when you want them inside. And what happens is that you're actually dragging the enemies towards his wall, and you want him to get damaged and stunned by his wall. And then after that, you could follow up with what? A quibble and polite company. Once again, those are the combinations that you like, type of techniques and strategies you can actually pull off with Phinn. Also, you could chain stun with a Catherine. Anybody that has a stun could chain stun very easily with Phinn. Now for snipers, Phinn is very good with Celeste, Castro, and even Jewel, because having the ability to actually slow down, pin down the target, to rearrange the targets, like the enemy's location, to a spot where Celeste, Jewel, and Castro could use their ultimate more precisely and perfectly, is a win-win, because you actually securing your allies the opportunity to wipe out the enemy with their ultimates or with their skill shots. That's why it's a good idea to always use your ability in favor of your team. So my word of advice is that, hey, build Phinn around health items. And if you're building Phinn with health items, be careful, be aware, aftershock. If you see an aftershock, stop. Go for shield and armor. So that's all, guys. If you like this video and you enjoyed this, and you see that this video was actually beneficial, helped you out a lot to actually understand more Phinn, hey, just like, share, and subscribe. And hey, share with those people that you know that they could actually benefit with this. And don't forget to leave a comment if you want to see new things, or you want to share some type of ideas for new videos. So I'll leave you with this, guys. Until next time, bye.